Hello and welcome to the Multicultural AFL Football Show, where anything can happen. I'm Vanessa Gatica. I'm originally from Mexico, and with me to talk about all things AFL footy, I'm joined by my two co-panelists, who also come from diverse ethnic backgrounds. Javier Sincano, Punjabi heritage. Hello, Javier.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
That's good.
And Gabriel D'Angelo, who is of Uruguayan background. Hello, Gabriel.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Gabriel, Javier, and I will be bringing you the latest AFL news and results of the week. More importantly, we will be highlighting the multicultural aspects of the AFL with news and interviews. A couple of weeks ago was the final round of the home and away season, and it kicked off with Essendon's surprise win over the Port Adelaide, 111-89. On Saturday afternoon, Geelong easily beat Gold Coast 142-40. While at the MCG, Richmond had a close win against the Western Bulldogs, 98-95. In Perth, Collingwood defeated Fremantle, 76-67. On Saturday evening, Houghton and Sydney had another close one, with the Hawks prevailing at the SCG, 83-74. At Etihad Stadium, Adelaide destroyed Carlton, 165-61. On Sunday afternoon, the West Coast Eagles won at the Gabba against Brisbane, 98-72. On Sunday afternoon, the West Coast Eagles won at the Gabba against Brisbane, 98-72. And at the MCG, Melbourne had a great win against GWS, 102-57. The last match of the round was at Etihad, where North Melbourne were far too good for St Kilda, 117-94. Well, some interesting matches and a close results. Guys, what are your picks for match of the round?
I believe, with all due respect to my beloved Doggies, they played exceptional game and they gave probably the Premiership contenders a very big scare. But I don't think Richmond played to their potential because it was sort of dead rubber for them. So I'm going to go for the match, which is Sydney versus Hawks. There was a top 4 position at stake, and both teams we've seen over the history, they've produced some fantastic games. Although the result that came up, I think that was sort of obvious when you have Luke Parker out, Buddy Franklin out, and they have to do less work. Hawks, and they are rising at the moment, and everything's going right for Hawks at the moment. Their senior players have become like a father figure to the players that are coming up. So they're all gelling together in such a manner that they're coming as a good unit. So which is fantastic around the finals, and we all know the finals they're great. So they had that top 4 position in their mind. They did exceptionally well. They had their focus and they were able to nail that game, even though Sydney was ahead at the start. And Sydney has to blame themselves for what they did because their kicking was atrocious at times. So I believe that was the match of the round, and Hawks played to their potential, and they've told everyone they are very good contenders for this year Premiership event.
Yeah, I totally agree with Javier. I thought that the Hawthorn-Sydney game was the best game for the round because these two teams, every time they play against each other, it's always a very tight and very intense affair. It's almost like every time they play, they always get the best out of each other. And it was a really important game for Hawthorn's sake, not just because they had to go into the top 4, but because they needed to prove to everyone that they're not a spent force. A lot of people have been sort of ignoring them, I think unfairly. They've been sort of flying under the radar coming into September, but this game sort of proved that beating Sydney at the SCG, which is not easy to do, that they are still a champion side, and they've got just as much a chance of winning the Premiership as Richmond or as West Coast. So I think that was a really important win for them, but also like to give a special mention to Essendon's performance against Port Adelaide. I thought they played really, really well, and it was a bit of a case of what might have been with Essendon because they've got so much great talent, especially young guys like McDonald, Tip and Woody, who's a favourite of mine. They've got McGrath, Sard, and of course Heppel, just to name a few. So it was a real shame that Essendon couldn't have those players playing at this crucial moment, during the final season. It would have been really good to see how they would have handled that pressure, how they would have played during the final. So alas, it was not to be.
Totally agree with you with Essendon. It's such a great team. That is interesting because Richmond Western Bulldogs game is my pick. I just like the way that the Doggies kept the ball low and the forward pressure always is up and the kicking is very accurate. So they stopped the Tigers and they couldn't use their height to drive out their halfback line for most of the game. So the Tigers were lucky to scrape in the berries of the margins. However, quickly moving on to our quick rapid fire Q&A segment, the 6-pointer where I ask you some rapid fire AFL hot potato questions. First one is yours, Javier. Is Richmond a shoe-in to go back-to-back this year, or did their last game expose their weaknesses?
No, well, definitely. With the last game, I think they will just put it aside and then they will focus on the finals at the moment. Definitely, they are biggest contenders for me this season for going back-to-back. Although what I believe is they've got the biggest hurdle in the form of Hawks. If they could get through that hurdle, I think it's going to be easy rounds for them further on. And they're going to keep on winning at MCG the way they've been doing until now.
Gabriel, after all that happened on and off the field this season, are the Adelaide Crows officially in a crisis? And if they are, what they can do to get out of it?
I wouldn't go so far as to say crisis, but there is something wrong at the Adelaide Crows. How they're going to fix it, I don't know. But there is definitely something wrong with the Crows. I mean, you've got players like Dangerfield, Davies, Tippett, Lever. They've all left the Crows, and now McGovern wants to leave. So when players of good quality want to leave, there must be something internally wrong that we're not privy to. So there's that, and also last year the Crows were easily the best team in the competition. A lot of people have forgotten that they were the firm favourites to beat Richmond in last year's grand final. So from being the best team last year to not even coming close this year, something must have happened in between that time. And also, a lot has been said about the fiasco about the pre-season camp, how some of the players, they had deep-seated psychological trauma as a result of this camp. What did they do at this camp? And where did they have this camp? At Guantanamo Bay? I don't know. But there was definitely something wrong at Adelaide at the moment. There's more questions and answers coming out of Adelaide, but we'll see what happens. How they're going to fix it, I've got no idea.
We got no idea. That's right, Gabriel. Javier, how deep into the finals can the Demons go this September, or will they go out in the first hurdle, even if Max Gawn is on top of his game?
Well, Melbourne's playing very good footy at the moment, especially we've seen in the last two games. They've played very well. But my doubt is that if they've already celebrated or not, because the way they celebrated just getting into the finals, I don't think I've got a feeling that the complacency factor might come in and they might not go that hard. Although they've got the potential to beat any team, any day, anywhere, the way they are. And we've seen that right from the start, that they're a very good team. The players they got, if they gel together and they have that urge of beating the other team and they want to go further and they want to make their fans more happy. So I believe there's no one can stop them. So Melbourne should be able to prove to everybody that they're good.
Yeah, definitely. They have done an amazing job this season.
Yep.
And I think they can do it very well. So this one is for you, Gab. As a Mad Tragic Saints fan, do you see Alan Richardson coaching your beloved St Kilda next year? And how much difference will the appointment of the specialist coaches Brett Rayton and Brendan Lade made on the coaching panel and team moving forward?
Well, I don't like when people lose their jobs because, they're losing their livelihood and, they're feeding their families and all that. But when you compare the 5 years or you even analyse the 5 years of Alan Richardson at St Kilda, it's not good. And there was this grand plan that in 2018 St Kilda were going to be a top 4 side. They ended up in the bottom 3. So obviously something wasn't right. Not only that, a lot of the players, the skill levels of the players and their errors every game is not of an AFL standard. Not only that, they've had a lot of shots on goal that have gone either wide or have missed completely, which is not of an AFL standard either. Not only that, but really good talented players or players of very good potential like Josh Bruce or Billings, they've actually gotten worse with every game. So there's a lot to answer for on a technical level. Whether Ratton and Lade can fix these problems, that remains to be seen. Hopefully they can. I know that St Kilda are sort of looking towards the Richmond model, which Collingwood are using, where the head coach stays but the assistants have changed. That may have worked for those teams, but will it work for St Kilda? I don't know. There's been a rumour going around that some of the players have actually said, if Richardson stays, then I'll leave. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But also there's this another rumour, that Brett Ratton is basically the plan B, so that next year if Richardson does get his marching orders, they've already got Ratton to fill in as the plan B to be the interim coach, and then they can get somebody else for 2020. These are just rumours at the moment, but we'll wait and see. As a St Kilda fan, I just hope they get better now rather than later.
You're a very good supporter of St Kilda, I know that. Now, over in the West, where Fremantle also had a bad year, Coach Ross Lyon is under heavy pressure to save his job. Do you see him surviving the chop, Javier?
Well, I believe he's under immense pressure at the moment, but I think he might be able to survive the chop at this stage, because at Fremantle, I believe they are buying that idea of rebuilding, what he's saying. Although where they can see the rebuild coming and where is it happening, I'm not really sure. The Sentinels, he's towards the end of his career and signing him up, and I'm not really sure what the vision is with Ross Lyon at the moment. And especially this year, their team have lost really 9 games with more than 50 points of difference. That's a big factor. Staying on the bottom, losing the game, that's one factor. But how you do it, that sort of makes a lot of that needs to make a lot of sense as well. And with the Ross Lyon at the moment, I don't think he's able to negate to the players. He's able to relate with the players at the moment. This is what I want. This is what I expect of you, and give me something out of it. I don't think that's happening at the moment. So I would say he will survive at this stage, but how long? That's anybody's guess.
We don't know. And finally, Gabriel, should we pay closer attention to Collingwood? Do you believe they can go all the way now that they finish in the top 4 and have that all-important second chance?
Yes, absolutely we should. I think that Collingwood, they've been flying under the radar this season. I know that a lot of the attention has been on obviously Richmond and Melbourne and all those teams, but they've been playing some really, really good footy. And what I like most about Collingwood this season is that every week there seems to be a new player stepping up that we hadn't expected. And it's like, well, wow, who's this guy? You know what I mean? Just out of nowhere, this player just comes out and has an amazing match. And it's sort of like Collingwood are happy to sort of spread the load a bit. They're not relying on one player or one or two players to do those key things. It's like, they share the love, so to speak. But I can't believe I'm speaking so positively about Collingwood. I can't believe it, but I really do believe that they've earned their right to be in the top 4, and just like any team in the finals, they've got a right and a chance to make it all the way. So I think Collingwood can do it, and the game against West Coast, they've got nothing to lose. Who knows what can happen, and so Collingwood might do well. You never know.
Yeah, I'm agree with you. Collingwood have a beautiful season. I really enjoy watching Collingwood play. We will return after the break with more AFL news. You're watching the Multicultural AFL Football Show, so stick around.
Richmond room, amazing victory, amazing win, and with Dion Prestia. So you are coming back to your best. Here reporting for 30% and NEMBC, Vanessa Gatica and Maximo, but Dion, you are getting better and better after your return.
Yeah, it's been a couple of weeks now, so I was probably just trying to work my way through the rest of the season and try and hit some form at the right time. But the way the boys played today, especially in that last quarter, was just amazing. And Collingwood are a great side. They'll go pretty deep in September. So it was a great challenge for us at 3/4 time.
So again, the fourth quarter, again you are able to beat your rivals. I mean, it was Grimes told us that. I mean, that you realize suddenly that you are extremely good in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
what is your secret to be? I mean, is it a question of fitness, or is more a question of belief in your the way you are playing?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both. You know, we've got such a fit group, and we've been real lucky with our injuries to date. So hopefully that continues this year. But I think just because we've done it so many times, where the game's been in the balance at three-quarter time, and we've been able just to run over teams really. And the first 10 minutes of that last quarter just set it all up for us. And I don't really know. I think it's just we've done it before, so we believe that we can continue to keep doing it.
How difficult is?
Obviously, like you said, there's so much competition for spots. I think that's what makes a healthy team and a healthy club, because it raises the bar every training session. You know, pushing each other to get better and keep improving. And I think, you know, when us younger boys come in, we're really grateful and just love being out there with the boys. When our opportunity comes, we try and grab it with both hands.
Can you explain to our listeners? Most of them are. I mean, we are a community radio. We are producing programs in 70 languages, so non-Anglo-Saxon. I mean, basically. So, can you explain them the difference between to play in BFL or to play in AFL?
My take on it, the VFL is a lot more contested. In the AFL, there's a lot more space. Obviously, you know, you've got the next step up, but I think what you get at VFL level is the same, because you got AFL listed players playing in VFL and you're playing on them. It's just a different level. So, to me, it's the same, just probably a bit more contested at VFL level.
So, what do you think about this Essendon team? I mean, probably they are a better team than the ladder says, no?
Yeah. Well, like they proved today, they're definitely a contender. Obviously, some things may haven't fallen their way throughout the year, injuries and stuff like that. But you know, they did really push us today, and we really wanted that and needed that before we go on hopefully for another long finals campaign again. But we definitely learned a lot today as a team. But yeah, no, they're definitely a competitor for sure.
So from here, from this position, I mean, you play another game, but do you think can you move to another position as a halfback just to have more chances to play?
I'm happy to play my role wherever it is. I just want to play my role for the team and do that. Whether that's forward, ruck, you know, down back, wherever. I love playing with the boys. I want to get the most experiences I can, so I can keep improving.
So all the best for the rest of the season, and good luck for the finals.
Thanks.
You are champion, no? I mean, the minors, no?
Yeah. So both levels will be in finals, which is good. And we'll take it game by game.
Do you think it's possible to back to back?
Well, mate, look, we hope so. We're going to take it game to game. We're process driven, so yeah.
Thank you very much, Ryan. All the best.
Thanks, mate. Cheers, I appreciate it.
Welcome back to the second half of the Multicultural AFL Football Show. We are now at the business end of the first round of the AFL Finals. So let's get straight into the games preview and our tips. First up tonight at the MCG, it's the first qualifying final between Richmond and Hawthorn. Judging by the way tickets for the match flew out the door last week, we could have a crowd over 90,000 people. The MCG blockbuster promises to be a tough and interesting tactical game. So who do you think will come out on top, Javier?
I believe, as you said, it's going to be a blockbuster. I believe Hawks got everything to beat Richmond at the moment. All the flaws that Richmond have shown in the whole of the year, I believe Hawks are able to pounce on that. So Alistair Clarkson, no one knows better MCG than him. So I believe it's going to be a very tough contest for Richmond. Their record of being unbeatable at the MCG is under huge pressure. For the tipping purposes, that's why I like Alistair Clarkson too much. On a final stage, I believe Hawks got it. They're going to upset this one. And they're going to upset Richmond in this game. And Hawks are going to come on top.
Well, yeah, absolutely. This is going to be a classic. This is going to be a really good one. Both teams have actually never played against each other in the finals before, so this will be really interesting.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, exactly. So, this is, as you said, Hawthorn, they are a very good team. They're not afraid to play at the MCG. Well, neither team are. They're both very well coached, well drilled. They've got players playing really well at the right moments. Hawthorn are a type of team that when it's finals time, that's when they're at their best. whenever it's the finals, that's when they step up a gear and they get that little bit more intense than during the rest of the season. I think it'll be really interesting to see how Richmond bounce back if they do lose against Hawthorn, because then we'll see how good of a team Richmond is, because they'll lose a little bit of that aura and that little bit of invincibility that they sort of have, especially if it's at the MCG. But for tipping purpose, I'm going to go for Richmond, but I wouldn't be surprised if Hawthorn can sneak a victory here, but I'm going for the Tigers in this one.
And who knows, friends might turn into foes at this one. Hardwick and Clarkson, they've both been friends for that long, but this match can turn them into foes at the moment.
Well, you know, they're friends off the field, but on the field, they're obviously enemies. They're not going to give each other any favours.
Yeah.
No, but it's a good point, Javier. Definitely. My pick is Richmond for the simple reason that the Tigers have won every game at the MCG this year. So I think the MCG is the house of Richmond, and Richmond have to win. Moving along to Friday, 7:50 Eastern Standard Time, again at the G, it is the first elimination final between Melbourne and Geelong. This will provide for an interesting encounter, as both teams have hit good form and the right time. But the question remains, which team will advance and which team exit the finals race? What is your opinion, Gabriel?
I actually think Melbourne can win this one. I actually think they can. They've got a better preparation leading into this game than Geelong, because Melbourne, they played two really good, really strong top 8 teams. They played West Coast at Optus, which they won. They had that amazing victory. And they beat GWS at the MCG. I mean, sure, GWS, when they play at the MCG, they're not as strong. But when you compare to what Geelong had to play, they played 2 games at home against Gold Coast and Fremantle. And with all due respect, they're not exactly, you know, top teams. So I think Melbourne leading into this game are a little bit better, a little bit more prepared. Don't get me wrong, Geelong are Geelong. They're an amazing side. They've got some great players, experienced players, but there just seems to be like Geelong, it's not their year. I just don't see them travelling too far in this final series. I think that the likes of Melbourne's younger players and the gelling that they've had with the experienced players like Gawn, Brayshaw, Oliver, Jetta, Harms, they've all been playing so well at the right time. I think that Melbourne can cause an upset. I think they'll win, and it'll be, you know, like in every final series, there's a Cinderella story. So I think this might be it.
Cinderella story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Melbourne side, like the way they're playing at the moment. But I believe that they've been found wanting at various stages against the top 8 teams, although they won the last 2 against the top 8. But still, there remains that edge of getting into the finals and playing the finals footy. However, if you look at Geelong, Gary Ablett, the trade period when he came there, that was probably what was on his mind. And I think he's got it. So he's going to come there on all guns blazing. And if he could get that help from Patrick Dangerfield, we've seen that last year, he's able to win matches just on his own. And if he could get that support from Joel Selwood, and if we have Harry Taylor at the back, Stewart at the back, and then Hawkins at the front, the way he's playing at the moment, I mean, it's going to be hard for them to stop them. Melbourne is a very good team, don't get me wrong, but I believe they, as I mentioned before in the program as well, I'm not too sure that if they've already won in their minds as into getting into the top 8. Maybe it was too much that they celebrated. So the complacency factor might creep in for them. That's the only reason which can stop them. Otherwise, very good contenders. We've been saying that right from the start of the season, that the top 4 contenders, the way they are, although Lever went out at the wrong time, but still they were able to gel together and play some good footy, some close matches which we saw. So all in all, it's going to be a good match again as the other one, but I believe Geelong might prevail with experience.
I don't think that Melbourne are going to be all that complacent. Like, I see what you mean, but also at the same time, Melbourne haven't been in the finals since, well, I think for 12 years or maybe even a bit more. So I think they've got every right to celebrate like that. Finally they've made it after such a long time. And don't forget last year that they should have made it last year, and they didn't. That's when they got complacent. They celebrated too early. They thought they were in it before they actually were in it. So I think, you know, they're professionals. They will think, okay, we're in it. let's forget about it, let's move on and concentrate on this game. So I see where you're coming from, but I just don't think that they're going to be complacent in this one. I think if anything, they're going to be hungrier.
Yep. Yeah, no, I'm agree with you guys. I think Geelong, for me it's Geelong.
I wonder why.
Yeah, you know why. But you're going to tell them why?
She loves Tom Hawkins.
Yes, okay. enough. Okay. Moving on, Saturday 4:20 Eastern Standard Time at the SCG, Sydney takes on crosstown rivals GWS. Will this be a case of Leon Cameron crashing the Ferrari, that is GWS, or will the Ferrari drive deeper into the finals? Will the 8-time All-Australian captain Buddy Franklin kick a bag of goals, and will that be game over, Javier?
Well, I believe it's going to be another close one. I'm loving the way the finals have shaped up, and we'll be watching every game, which is going to be a fantastic game. That's what it looks like, at least. But as far as GWS is concerned, I think they've got their injury concerns. It's going to be very important who plays and who not. Now, we've seen that in the past. Phil Davis on Buddy Franklin, he did a beautiful job, and he was able to contain him and everything. And when he got injured, went away, and then Buddy just showed his magic after that. So if that happens, that Phil Davis is not there and a few other players are not there, I believe Toby Green's going to come in. But how much impact would he make on the game? He's been out for that long. What kind of practice he's been doing? It's going to be a lot of factors that's going to go on GWS win. But on the other hand, Luke Parker coming back in, Buddy well rested, and we've seen, although they lost against Hawks, but still they played very good footy. They were without Buddy Franklin and Luke Parker. So they were still all right. But only thing let them down was their kicking. So if they could get that right, I believe there's not going to be anything which is going to stop Sydney from winning against GWS. Other factor, their home ground, I believe it's not really home ground advantage for them. Yeah. But I still think they would win this game. Yeah,
like GWS, they've been less of a Ferrari and more of a Datsun 120Y. They haven't really been that good this year. I think that Sydney, they sort of remind me a little bit of Hawthorn in the sense that when it's finals time, that's when they start to kick it up a gear. That's when they become really, really dangerous. And I think that we shouldn't take it out, but we know that they haven't had the best season at home. They've lost games like against Gold Coast at home. I mean, they should never have lost that game ever, but they did. But when it comes to finals time, everyone is at an even plate. Everyone starts at 0, and then that's the real competition begins. And I think that Sydney have that sort of momentum. They've got Buddy Franklin, who's in great form. We all know about him. Isaac Heaney, he's been a breath of fresh air. And you've got some fantastic young players like Alir. You've got Grundy, Papley. Sydney, I think that they tick all the boxes against GWS. GWS, they've been a bit disappointing this season. I don't really think that they've shown or demonstrated what they can do, because GWS really, with the players that they've got, with the talent they've got, with the money they've got, that they should be a top 4 side. So I'm going to go with Sydney on this one.
Okay. And to complete the first week of finals action, moving on now to Optus Stadium in Perth at 6:10 Western Standard Time, Saturday night, where the West Coast Eagles take on Collingwood in the second qualifying final. Can you see the Magpies causing an upset with a surprise victory in Perth, or will Collingwood be using their second chance in a Melbourne home final, Gabriel?
I think Collingwood will be using a second chance. I don't think that they're going to win this one. Don't get me wrong. I think Collingwood have had a fantastic season so far. I mean, they've made it into the top 4. So you don't have a bad season and make it to the top 4. So they are in there totally on their own merit. But West Coast at Perth, it's a very tough assignment, and I think that West Coast, I think that they'll be just a little bit too strong for Collingwood at the moment. I'll be interested to see how Collingwood will handle West Coast big men, especially Josh Kennedy and McGovern, who they can set the agenda of any and every game that they play. And also the small men like Willie Rioli, who's just sprung out of nowhere. He's been an excitement machine. I really enjoy watching him play. I think that West Coast, they should be too strong at home. If they lose this one, and they could, it'll be interesting to see how they're going to bounce back, because if they lose at home against Collingwood in the first game of the finals, it could really damage them mentally in the second game. So we'll see how we go, but I think West Coast should win this one.
Well, I agree with Gabriel on this one, that West Coast should win this one. Although I must say there's going to be a fight in the midfield. Collingwood has got one of the best midfields this season. So they've gave it to Richmond when they were playing against them. They were up there with them until the 3 quarters or so. And I mean, even if you look at probably after the match as well, still they will have very good stats as far as midfield is concerned and all the players who play in the midfield. So it's going to be a problematic for West Coast to supply their guns at the front. We all know that Josh Kennedy can kick from everywhere. Yeah, Jack Darling is in prime form at the moment, as you mentioned, McGowan. They all can do it, but players like Elliot Yeo and then few others, like they really need to step up and provide that ball, provide that opportunity to West Coast, and Collingwood might sneak in with a chance if they are unable to do that. However, because it's at Optus Stadium, West Coast is generally too strong over there, so I will think they will win this one.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. That's all for this week's edition of the Multicultural AFL Football Show. Don't forget to listen to us on 3ZZZ FM, radio stations around Australia, and online at the NEMBC's AFL Footy website. Stay tuned next week as we will have lots more AFL action, news about all things multicultural footy. Guys, before we wrap up, just a quick question. Who is your pick for the Brownlow?
Well, there are a few contenders. They've got, like, say, 30-odd disposals with few goals as well. You can mention Crepes, side bottom, few others. But to me, I believe Tom Mitchell will get it this time. He's averaging like 36 disposals or something like that. And then he's scored a few goals as well. And then there hasn't been a match where it was said that all the number of disposals that he's done are not the effective ones. So he's been pivotal in Hawks' top 4 position. So I believe Tom Mitchell's got it this time, according to me. And I believe umpires would rate him better.
And for you, Gabriel?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's hard to go past Tom Mitchell. I mean, he just recently won the Players MVP award, so I think he's ticking all the right boxes. But it'll be interesting to see Patrick Cripps, see how he goes, because, you know, Carlton have been extremely bad this year. So I don't know if umpires give votes, regardless of how good the player is, to the player of the losing side. I don't know. I don't think that they would. They usually give it to the winning team. But I think Tom Mitchell should come out on top. But just because Carlton were dead last, I hope that Patrick Cripps might even cause an upset and might even win it. I doubt it, but who knows.
Well, I'm also going for Tom Mitchell for Houghton, as he's already won the AFL Players' Most Valuable Player, as you mentioned before. So we have a unified vote. Yeah. I'm Vanessa Katika. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to join us next week on more finals action. I hope your team wins. Bye for now.